G'day legends, I hope you're all amazing. We're checking out firmware 32.03 beta for the Axe FX 3 today. I have been away from home for the last 5 weeks on tour, and as such, I've missed all the tasty updates that have been coming out for the Axe FX. I'm going to do my best to cover as many of the new features as I can in this video. I want to take a look at the remastered Friedman and 5150 amps, the new chorus block and chorus types, including models of the Boss CE-1, which I'm very excited about, the new Dry Diffusion parameter in the delay block, the Oversampling in the drive block, and just bear with me, I haven't done this for 5 weeks, so I am bound to go off on a lot of tangents. But before we do, we're going to start out with the Friedman HBE C45 amp model. You can see I've got this dual amp setup. I'm going to be doing some stereo chorusing in front of the amps in a second. So exactly the same settings in each amp block, just one has the right input selected and it's panned right. Similarly, this amp has the left input selected and it's panned left. I've got my free cab IR in a stereo cab over here and just a touch of the gold plate reverb. Let's hear this Friedman HBE C45. I think all the Friedmans sound a lot better, a lot more immediately satisfying in here. The C45 is my favorite for the HBE and the BE. Let's go. Absolutely glorious. I remember when I first got an AX8, the Friedman BE and HBE models were the first amp models I really gelled and bonded with, and I feel like I'm having that experience all over again 10 years later, which I really, really like. Let's have a listen to the BE C45 model. I've just saved these settings in my block library over here. I'm just going to adjust these input settings. Again, if you've never run dual amps, this is probably the best way to do it if you want to use stereo modulation effects before the amp. So left input on one of them, panned hard left, and then we'll do the same thing. I'll load this from the library. We're going to go right input, pan it hard right over there. Now, I think one thing with the Friedman models is there is that inevitable comparison with Marshalls. And I think if you want something that sounds like a JCM 800, just use the Brit 800 models in there. But we will hear the BE C45 against the Brit 800 models really quickly. Check this out. I love this model. Functionally, they're actually pretty similar, but the feel under the fingers is very different. The Friedman is a lot more forgiving, it's slightly less percussive, and I would choose it for single note lead lines over the 800. It's almost like the 800 is optimized for that AC/DC rhythm style playing, whereas if you want a little bit more grease and you want to be able to just have slightly more sustain and a forgiving feel, the Friedmans are going to appeal to you. Let's just jump ahead now and go over to the 5150 block amp model. These have been remastered. So PVH 6160 block lead, again, the same dual amp setup. And what I want to do is let you hear it without a boost and then boosted with this Maxoff 808. Classic combination on there. In the advanced tab of the drive block, you can now select between normal oversampling, so what existed on previous firmwares, and high oversampling. It's going to use more CPU, but I can hear and feel the difference in here, and I think if you're somebody who loves that boosted amp character, you're going to want to leave this on high. But let's hear it unboosted. I'll put the settings up. Definitely doing something on there. I think it changes the feel a little bit as well. That good old nebulous feel that we all talk about so much. I want to hear this with a cleaner amp, so I'll do the Texas Star clean, neck pickup of the Les Paul, and we'll use the Guardian Photon speed with the drive cranked up. We're going to start off with normal oversampling. Very tasty indeed. To my ears, there's a bit more clarity, it's a little smoother overall, and on an Axe-FX 3 Turbo, nearly every single preset that you're ever going to use to actually make anything other than bleep bloop noises on there is going to be able to fit that oversampling parameter in there. I shudder to think what your presets look like if the drive block oversampling is sending one of your presets into CPU overload. Let's move on to the delay block quickly before we get onto the Chorii. I want to check out this new delay block dry diffusion parameters. So I've loaded up the Zephyr delay because this is one of the types that has diffusion included at the stock settings. You can see there's diffusion and now dry diffusion on there. What I'm going to do is turn the reverb off, and basically diffusion smears out your echoes. It kind of makes them reverby. Let's have a listen to this. Okay, I want to figure out what the dry diffusion actually does. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the delay mix up to 100%. Bear with me, there's a little science experiment. I read the release notes and I haven't tried it out yet. So diffusion is smearing out the echoes. So if we turn dry diffusion all the way down to 0 and we crank up the diffusion, we get this. Let's do the opposite now. I'm going to turn diffusion all the way down and dry diffusion up. Okay, I think I know what it's doing. The dry diffusion is smearing out the dry signal. So if you've got that turned up and you've got diffusion set to 0, you get this reverby smear, then you get echoes, whereas the diffusion is acting on the repeats only. So if you've got the mix down anything below 100% on there, you're still going to have your unaffected dry guitar signal on there. But what you will get is that initial echo. So if we actually set the diffusion and the dry diffusion up, with both of them at 0, you would just get echoes. If you had dry diffusion at 0, you're going to get a repeat, so a single echo that is then going to get smeared out. Now with the dry diffusion, you can make that initial echo all smeared and blurry and then have your subsequent echoes diffused as well. Isn't that cool? Let's do this. Let's play the riff. I'm going to set the left-right time ratio to 75%, maybe turn the mix up a little bit. Let's turn this reverb on, the pitch block on over there. We've got the Zephyr delay. I've got the diffusion and dry diffusion up around 60% on there. It sounds pretty lush. And last but certainly not least, the chorus block has been overhauled and there's a bunch of new Chorii in here, including models of the CE-1 chorus and vibrato mode. There is a model of the Boss CH1, the bass CE2, the MXR analog chorus, and the small clone in here. Now, one interesting thing with the CE1 chorus and vibrato mode on the real pedal is that it's not actually a pitch vibrato, it's still a chorus. It's just using a sine wave LFO for the vibrato mode and a triangle wave LFO for the chorus mode. And if you go to the expert settings, you can see that over here. Have a look. CE1 vibrato, sine wave LFO, CE1 chorus triangle wave. I love this new layout in here where you've got the minimum delay time and the delay range on here. I'm going to try roll my own chorus in just a second, but my favorite settings on the old CE1 were with the rate around 1.5 to 2 hertz on there. In the chorus mode, you just need the rate control on there. Because I'm running it in stereo, I can also play around with the width parameter or the LFO phase parameter on there. Let's have a listen. that CE-1 is so good. That makes me so happy having that model in there. And if you're chasing those late 70s Lifeson and Summers tones, you're in the right place. I want to try out the CH1 on here. This one's interesting because it has an EQ control. I think the MXR model on there has a high and a low control as well, which is pretty fun. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Super Overdrive in front of a pair of JCM 800 models in here. I'm going to use the CH1. I've got the width turned up, not to 100%, but quite a bit. Oversampling in the drive block, going for a Zach style thing. Worst version of No More Tears that you're going to hear today. Let's try out the small copy on here based on the famous small clone. From memory, the small clone just has a single big rate knob on there, and then it's got a two-way switch on there for the depth. You've got a fully functional depth control on here. So let's check this one out. About this is if you take any chorus, let's take the CE-1 chorus over here. You've got the basic controls, rate and depth. Beautiful. You can go and make music with that. That is what it's all about. But in the expert mode over here, let's say I set my rate a bit lower. I'll go back to 50% on the depth. What you can do is roll your own chorus. You can set the minimum delay time and then a delay range of up to 40 milliseconds on here. I really appreciate this over the old style controls on there, because if you wanted to replicate an old chorus and you know how to measure it, then you can just plug those values in there. For example, let's say the minimum delay that I wanted on here was 5 milliseconds and I wanted a delay range similarly of 5 milliseconds. I can get that happening in there. Let's have a listen to this. It might be terrible, it might be cool. assume what the depth control is doing is controlling the percentage swing from the minimum delay time up to this maximum that you would get out of the delay range control on there. So that's pretty cool. You could set the depth at 100% in that case, set auto depth off, and then just customize your minimum delay time and delay range on there. This is super cool. Again, more is more in this setting, in my opinion. If you're going to have these expert parameters exposed to the user, I love that we can play around with this. All the modulation nerds out there will absolutely love this. But if you're just someone who's been waiting for a Boss CE-1 model to be in there so that you can cop some of those classic tones, well, it's really easy. Bring up the Japan CE-1 chorus or vibrato, turn the rate and depth to where it sounds good, and then shut up and play your guitar. And that's what I'm going to try and do right now. I just want to say a massive thank you to everybody who has continued to support the channel. If you want to grab my blocks library or my presets or some of the music that I make with my band Ragdoll, you can check it out in the video description. Otherwise, grab your guitar, go make some noise, and I'll see you next time.